All right. So all of us must have often heard that, oh, it's just a bad, small minority group inside a larger group, most of whom are awesome people, right? We've heard this often. Just because majority of the people in that group are awesome people, and only very small minority in that group are the bad, that must mean the whole group in its entirety must be good. For example, if 99% of the group is made up of great people and only 1% is bad, that must mean the entire group is largely good. There is nothing wrong or abnormal about it, right? Wrong. I have the opposite theory. My theory is if the number of bad people is small, but if that group, small subgroup is very little, then making them or being them small is actually a greater threat than having a larger, more dangerous subgroup. Meaning, if 1% of the whole group is dangerous, but is very dangerous, lethal, then that is more dangerous, then that whole group is more dangerous than a group where about 70 to 80% of the people are lethal and dangerous and bad, and only 40% of good people are good. Let me say it again because I think make it clear. Two groups, one group has 99% of people who are great and only 1% of the people who are bad, but those bad people are extremely lethal. And another group where 75% of the people are bad and lethal, and only 35% of the remaining people are good. Which of these two groups are more dangerous? People will say, of course, the one here, that is 75% bad people. But this group, that is only 1% bad people, is a good group. I would argue otherwise. The group where the bad people are only 1% is more dangerous. All right, let me put it other way. Say, imagine a truck full of apple comes to your house, and the driver says, "Here's 1,000 apples for you." The only problem is 60% of the apples are bad, as in they are stale or old. Would you take it? You'd say, yeah. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? I'll take the 40%, and if I get a bad apple, I'll just throw it. Okay, you'll take that truck. Now, if a second truck comes, and now the driver says, this is a truck full of 1,000 apples, only 1% of apples are bad. Okay, but those apples are not stale. Those apples can actually kill you. All right, let's make the comparison even more stark. Let's say only 5 of those 1,000 apples are bad. But if you eat those 5, you are certainly going to die. 100%. The problem is you don't know which 5. Okay? The only way you can find out which are the deadliest 5 apples is only after you eat it. There is no difference between a poisonous apple and a non-poisonous apple. They look the same, they feel the same, they smell the same. The only way you find out which 5 out of the 1,000 apples are poisonous is after you eat it and after you die. If you eat it, you've fallen sick, that could be poisonous, probably not, because those 5 apples are so potent that if you eat it, you have to die. So the only outcome of letting that truck of 1,000 apples come into a neighborhood is that 5 of the people in that neighborhood or in that community are going to die. Is that a good odd? No. What happens is when the number of bad apples are less, it is easier for them to hide among the larger good apples, especially when there is no way to distinguish between good and bad. In that case, the larger good apple actually make it difficult to get hold of those 5 really bad apples. If the truck was filled of 70% bad apples, 70% of poisonous apple, then the choice would be very easy. Hey, this truck is full of 70% bad apples. The choice is simple. We don't want the entire truck. Take it back. Okay? We're not going to take a risk. But if only 5 out of 1,000 apples are bad, then we might have people say, you know what? It's probably not that bad. What is the chance that someone will eat and end up into a poisonous apple? The choice is more difficult. Now, when the difference gets even more stark, if there are 1 lakh apple, and in that 1 lakh apple, only 5 are dangerous, then the choice to whether push the truck back or bring it in becomes even bigger, more difficult choice. And this also becomes a difficult choice. And whoever is arguing that, oh, only a very, very small percent of a subgroup, of a group, very, very small percent is a lethal subgroup and a larger is a group, only very small. The larger group is good. They're all good. If larger is group, if 99% of people are good, that means they're all good. I would only ask them this question. Would you let your family member eat from a basket of apples in which you knew, basket of 100 or 1,000 or 1 lakh, whatever, basket of 1 lakh apple? Would you allow your family members to eat from a basket of 1 lakh apple if you knew there are 5 apples in that basket that will kill your family members? And most people, most sane people will say, no, I would much rather my family member not eat a single apple. And that's my point. It's not the proportion of good versus bad. It's not how many are bad. It is how difficult it is to find out who's bad and who's good. And those who are bad, they are lethal. And therefore, it is always a better idea when there is a doubt that a truck is full of bad apples and those bad apples can kill you, is to either find a very clear way, a scientific and most certain way to find those bad apples. And if such way cannot be found, then most people will come to a conclusion that we would not rather have any apples. Give me a thought. And I know a lot of people are scratching their head. What the hell is this video about? No, it's just a thought. If you understood, if you agreed, write a comment.